Welcome to Making Conversations, a podcast from makers Gemma Millen and Robin Galway.
Today we are making conversations with Zara McLaughlin of Zara Ceramicist. Hi Robin.
Hi Gemma, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Not too bad. How's your lockdown been?
It's all a bit of a blur at the moment.
Yeah.
What have you been up to?
Quite busy. I think people have been bored at home possibly and online ordering, so thankfully I feel very lucky to still be going, but it was chaos moving studios and trying to feel like you were dodging the police, trying to do simple things that you would have done every day that you can't really do anymore, like even going to the post office was like an epic scene out of 007 or something.
My life didn't really change too dramatically for lockdown, I've got to be honest. It just really restricted where I could go and what I could participate in. Took up a few new hobbies over lockdown, done a bit of sewing, and just have been pottering about the house and the garden. So
Wonderful.
Not too bad, really. Just miss your wonderful face.
And yours too. So enough chatty catch-up. We wanted to say hello, as it's been ages since we released our last episode, all the way back in 2019 in August when times were simpler. This year is a bit more special, not just because apparently it's the end of the world, but we are really delighted to share that we've received funding from the Arts Council of Northern Ireland as part of their Artist Emergency Programme. And with that, we will be producing 10 exciting new episodes with wonderful local makers.
This episode is the first, and it's with Zara McLaughlin of Zara Ceramicist, a fresh ceramics graduate from Ulster University, whose drive and motivation is wonderful. So let's start this conversation. So we are here with Zara McLaughlin, also known as Zara Ceramicist.
Hello, everyone.
This is really exciting. So this is strange. We're doing this online. We would have met you in person.
I know, it's the new digital lockdown age, isn't it? It's so weird. Everything is Zoom now.
Oh gosh, are you zoomed out?
Constant zooming. I don't think I could do any more Zoom quizzes if I tried.
Yeah, we would have met in person, and like we really do love that. But it's even stranger because we've never physically met you as well. So we're just, me and Robin are just full-time stalkers of yourself, and we thought you are going to be brilliant to kind of have, especially as our first. This is a series, the second series. We have been really lucky to get funding from the Arts Council to interview the likes of yourself, and so you're number one. You're the first one that we're doing.
I feel really special to be the first one on.
You should, absolutely.
I hope I can live up to the expectations.
Oh no, you're grand, absolutely. So you literally just received your degree this week.
Literally a couple of days ago.
Yes, and you got a first class honours. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
That is not something to get easily at all. So well done. And never mind during lockdown. So well done you. Oh my gosh. Before we kind of get to kind of here, let's kind of take it back a wee bit. So you are a ceramicist. Ceramicist, no longer.
Located in Ballymoney.
Ballymoney, amazing. And so how did that come about? Were you always really creative as a child? You know, did you want to be a ceramicist since you were a toddler?
Whenever I was younger, like my granny would have always like thrown down a colouring book in front of me. Like I feel like I was always like, just like I've always gravitated towards art and craft, and I just love to make things. But whenever I went to school, like I went to Korean grammar, whenever I was there, it was Korean girls high school. So when I was there, I did a lot of painting and drawing. Like we never touched clay. We never really did craft. We literally only painted and drawn. And I thought I was going to be this fine artist. Like I thought I was going to be doing all these paintings. And so whenever I left secondary school, I decided to do the foundation diploma in Limavady. So I went there for a year and I was still like, I really love painting. I don't know if like anything else, but I sat down to do the first ceramics class and I just fell in love with the material. So I did it for a while and I was still not sure if like this was what I wanted to do full time. I didn't really know enough about it. But I got to the end of my diploma and I was like, right, I need to start looking. I want to continue this. So I want to go to university. Like that has always been the dream. I was like, I want to go to an art university. Like I want to be one of those people who like does art full time. but I knew it was going to be really, really hard. But anyway, I was like, right, I'm going to go on here and I'm going to look at courses. So I went on my laptop, typed everything in, and I was like scrolling through the courses with my dad, and we were looking at them. And I was like, okay, fine art. Like, I've always thought I was going to be a fine artist. So I clicked onto it to apply for it. And then I was looking at my other options, and one that came up was ceramics, jewellery, and silversmithing. And I was like, oh gosh, like, what's that? Like, that just seems really interesting. Like, I've always loved working with my hands. I loved making things. And so I clicked onto it, I watched the wee video, and I was like, you know what? Like, I can kind of see myself there. And my dad was like, if you can see yourself there, I think you need to go for it. And like, really, like, don't worry about fine art. But I went to the interviews anyway with my two giant folders underneath my arms, like walked in, and I went to the fine art interview, and I don't know, I just didn't really like it went really well, but I just didn't click. And then when I went to my silversmith and jewelry ceramics one, I just had like a different experience. Like, it was just so welcoming, and I just really enjoyed the whole process and like talking about my work and what I was doing. Anyway, down the line, I got offers for both, and then decided, like, right, I think I'm going to go with the ceramics, jewelry, silversmith one. But this is like the weird part. So whenever I went in, I didn't realize that you could either just do ceramics or just do jewelry, or like, I thought I would be doing like a mixture of everything. So I had all my tools for like everything, and I was like, right, I'm gonna do jewelry. I don't know what came into my head or like what made me do this, but I was like, I'm gonna do jewelry. So I went in, and for the first 3 weeks, I like really just gave it my all. And like, I don't know, I think it was because I was in that really weird headspace because I just moved to Belfast. I was just on my own. I was throwing everything at it. I was really giving it my all, and I was like telling myself, like, you can do this. This is great. But I was really struggling. And I couldn't understand what it was. Like, I loved art, but like the material and the metal and the hammering of the metal just wasn't for me. Like, I just couldn't do it. And I was like, no, like, I've worked all this time and I just really don't understand like why I just can't get into it. So I took a break one day and I went to the ceramics department, and I sat down with my friend who was like working with a ball of clay, and she handed me a ball of clay, and I started like playing with it and like making bits and pieces. And I was like, you know what, no, this is where I need to be. Like, I need to move, and I need to move now. So I was thinking about it, and I literally went to bed that night, and when I got up in the morning I was like, right, no, can't do this anymore. And I went to my lecture and I was like, I need to switch over to ceramics, would that be okay? And they were like, yes, of course. Like, so like 3 weeks in, then I just threw myself into ceramics, and I tell everyone I feel like I've been bitten by the clay bug, because I am just addicted to clay now. Like, I love it, and I love like working with clay, and I love how you can create functional stuff and be able to sell and market it that way. But I also really love the whole artist and like creating sculptural work and making things like that. So it really gave me the best of both worlds. Just loved it.
Brilliant. And so, I mean, even like looking back as well, because you've really documented your time at university on your Instagram, which is just absolutely phenomenal that you've had like the mindset to do that in advance. It's kind of like a lovely little catalogue or like a collection or archive of that. But even looking back on those, you can really see how proficient you were at all these different material processes. So like a large part of you seem to be divided into kind of two, I would say, is that you are amazing at throwing. You like, you have that in the bag.
I do love it.
Definitely. Yeah. So whereas, and then you also have this art side as well. So what was the first kind of processes that you really confirmed you? What did you start throwing, or was it hand building, or was it subcasting? What was first in that?
I think I've always like, I started off really enjoying hand building, and then I sort of like, because the wheels were there in the university, myself and my friend Claire, she's also known as Claire MC Ceramics, and Rebecca Drysdale Ceramics on Instagram, we like would just we were just obsessed with the wheels. So we would stay like really late at night and just throw and throw and throw and throw and throw. And I knew from the very beginning that I would really love to make a business out of this, because I knew art was going to be really, really hard to find a career afterwards. So like I did start making and selling bits and pieces whenever I was at uni. But no, I was really fond of throwing, but there was also something missing there for me because I have always wanted to make art and like sculptural, and so whenever I was like learning the different processes, I fell into slip casting. Now slip casting is so difficult. Like even now I find it really, really challenging. And so it was a bit of a love-hate relationship because I would go in and I would make something and I would love like molding like a form and then creating it in clay, but then things would go wrong and I'd be like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I can't face another plaster disaster. Like I just can't do it. And so I would walk away from it, and then I would find myself gravitating back into it. So like last semester I was building these houses and I just couldn't get the finish that I wanted. Like I love like clean lines, everything to be quite crisp. And so my technician was like, why don't you 3D print them and we could like mold them, you could do more like slip casting. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I could do this again. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it a go. And I just fell in love with 3D printing as well. So we started like printing all these things and I would start making the molds, and I would make the molds would fail and I would do it again. And I am such like a stubborn person, so whenever it went wrong I was like, no, I'm gonna make this work. So I went back to it and just kept pushing forward with it and just kept going, and like eventually I did get there, but it did take a lot of time. And I didn't really like ever I didn't like get like really good at like mold making until I went and did a workshop with Ed Bentley over in Stoke. So I got some funding last year from the Degenhart Scholarship, and so I went over to Stoke for a week and learned to properly mold make with Ed Bentley, and it was great.
Wow.
And I like really opened my eyes to like what I could do with my mold making. So I could be making functional wear as well as sculptural wear with this one process, and I think that's what really like drove me to like keep pursuing it, because I could see such like great results from it. And it's such like it's so hard that like every time that it was like defeating me, I was like, no, like this cannot defeat me. I need to keep going, I need to keep practicing, and I just need to keep pushing forward with it. And eventually I got there, but yeah, it was hard work. And I do still love throwing. Now I bought my first wheel back last year after I'd saved enough from, I did a lot of craft fairs and saved up and bought my first wheel. And so I would sit at the weekends, so I'd be doing all my university work during the week, and then at the weekends I'd be like, right, I need to make stuff, I want to make stuff and sell. And so I would make these mugs. So I've always been mugs, so like I feel like a bit like I'm just making mugs all the time, but like I just I don't know, I just love them. So I would be making these mugs at the weekend, pack them all up, and then take them back to Belfast to fire in the kilns.
Right. Oh my gosh.
So yeah, in my head, like I just ceramic. So literally
Yeah.
all the time.
That's
So I
amazing.
just juggle both of them all the time. But no, I'm
Yeah.
definitely finding slip casting is where I want to go, and the route I want to like go down more, and like really just, but it's, you know, it's like getting all this equipment. Like ceramics is so expensive too.
Gosh.
Um
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Oh, that's incredible. Actually, we did want to really pick up on that because you got the Richard Degenhart scholarship,
yeah.
which, you know, you have followed a lot of very incredible people that have been awarded that, like Rebecca Kiln and Wendy Ward, both people who are really, you know, on the top of their game, especially making slip cast pieces as well. But how did you choose then Ed Bentley? How did that come about? Was how did you do your research, you know, and where you were going to go to learn those skills, or yeah,
So
what was?
I had been following him on Instagram for quite a while. And I know he's like at the top of his game when it comes to mold making specifically. And I was just really, really struggling with how to make these perfect molds. And he's just so friendly on Instagram. So I did my research, I was reading all the reviews, and he's just got like such a glowing report. Like he's been doing this for 30 years, like over 30 years. And you just think to yourself, like, wow, like how can you just, and honestly whenever I met him, he's the most lovely human, and anyone will tell you that he's just so lovely. And he just sort of like the fire again for mold making because he just does it with such ease. And so it was over in Stoke. So we went over to Stoke, and while I was there, the ceramics biennial was on too. So we got to like look round it as well and see all of the other creators. So I just feel like I was just like thrown into it. But no, I really did enjoy my time over there, and I would go over again in a heartbeat because I just loved my time over there.
Brilliant. That's great. How long was it then? Was it a week or a month or?
Yeah, I just went over for a week.
Yeah.
I learned how to work on the lathe. And then we like drew up a design, and then he showed me how to plan that out to create it on the lathe, and which was great because I had never used the lathe. And then when I came back to university, I was just glued to the lathe. And there's two in Ulster, and like nobody was really on them, so I would be like in the morning setting up and like filling up the cottles and then sticking it on, and then all afternoon I'd just be lathing away. There'd just be like snow in the plaster from like carving. Just like you have to like just wad through the snow of plaster. But no, it was great, and we did that, and then I learned how to really focus on making better molds.
Brilliant.
It really helped for my degree. Like I know I wouldn't have been at the same standard had I not gone.
Mm-hmm. And your exhibition work as well is just amazing and so well thought through. But do you think whenever you went into uni, like you were saying that you wanted to make a business side, but you seem to have quite a balance and a natural aptitude for both production and exhibition. Do you see yourself as being quite split between the two, or do you think that you kind of always did have that mindset for business?
I don't know. This is the thing too. Like whenever I was at school, I studied business studies, and to be honest, like I was really, really not good at business studies. Like my A-level results, like I was just not a business person. And so it really did break my heart at the time, because whenever I was at school, I was like, no, like I always wanted to have my own wee creative business. I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to sell things, I want to make. And so whenever I was like writing these essays and these essays were coming back like not good, I was like, I'm never going to be a business person. Like, what am I doing? What am I thinking? Like, I can't do, like, what? And so like I did always have that sort of like doubt in my back of my mind, but I was still like, because I am so stubborn, I was like, no, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna show them that I can be a business person. And it's not all essays, and it's not all about what you can remember and all this other stuff that you seem to get graded on. And so I don't know, I really do love making work to exhibit. And whenever I went to collect a couple of years, I think it was last year, I went to collect with my friend Claire, and we were just blown away at the quality of the work. Like you see the stuff in books and online, but it's not until you're actually there looking at it that you're like, whoa, like this stuff is insane. And I was just like, I would love to be there one day. Like that is also like a goal. Like I would love to have like my work along like with all these other like phenomenal makers. But no, I've always been very like split between the two, because I love selling and making work to sell, but I also love exhibiting and creating work just because I love to make. Yeah. So it's really hard to like pick between the two. And I feel like I don't know if you were the same when you were at uni, but they do try to like funnel you into like one or the other. And I know like why they do it, because it's good to like specialize in one or the other. But like I just find it so difficult to like pick between the two. And one of my biggest inspirations would be like the likes of Derek Wilson, who's exhibiting and creating all this fantastic work, but also does make functional work on the side. And I really look up to him, and like how he's just like blown it out of the water, and how far he's come in 10 years is insane.
Yeah, well, that's one thing actually. I mean, I didn't really want to bring your age into this because you are younger than me, but whenever I was your age, you know, I wouldn't have had the mental capacity to be as professional as you are. So I don't necessarily think that your success came just because you're young. I think that, you know, there's just something there that isn't necessarily there or available for most people, because you have really just hit the ground running in terms of, you have set up a business where, you're making product, you have your branding there as well, and that really ties in with your artistic work and your social media too, because you are absolutely killing it on social media. I mean,
Thank you.
like right now you're just kind of shy of about 100 people away from 5,000 followers, which for someone that literally
madness.
has graduated from like about a few days ago,
Yeah.
that is just phenomenal that you've had the kind of foresight to be able to kind of start that so early on. I mean, would you say that doing that business course in school, that was kind of like a bit of a catalyst for you to say, actually, no, I'm going to do it my way? Would you say that was really the starting point for you to say, actually, I'm going to have both like this Derek Wilson style of high contemporary art, but also, this functional business side of your practice too?
Yeah, definitely. And also, I've always been drawn to social media. I've always been a little bit obsessed with watching people online when it comes to YouTube and vloggers or people who do talk online. Since I was probably about 12, I have watched these people and looked up to them and just thought, wow, look at the confidence they have to get on and speak to the camera and just talk about what they're doing. It just seems so crazy that someone would be able to do this. But I have always thought to myself, I would love to have the confidence to just pick up the phone and show people what I'm doing, because it's kind of like storytelling too. You're telling a story when you're making, and when people are buying from a creative person, they are buying a little bit of you because you have made it, because it is handmade. So I feel I do want to tell my story a little bit and let people know what I'm about and what I'm doing, or where I'm at. I just think it adds to the whole thing. It's just lovely to have a community as well. I started my Instagram for my business page when I was in first year, and it has given me so many opportunities that I just didn't even think would happen. Instagram has been such it's just been crazy. Whenever I was in first year, I would be making mugs, and I had because I used to work in a cafe, I had a friend who was really good at latte art, and she made me a mug, or she made me a latte art in one of my mugs, and I put it up on my Instagram. And a couple days later, I got a message from a guy in Liverpool who was starting a coffee shop, and he was like Zara, I would love to really stock your mugs. And I was like, whoa, I couldn't believe that I could get these kind of connections through Instagram, this wee tiny app that's on your phone. How could that possibly open you up to so much? But no, it's been great. And then talking on the camera is just a whole another ball game. I just didn't realize how much of an impact that would make. And I decided one day, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna go on and I'm just gonna talk to the camera. Everybody else is doing it, and I think I'm just gonna do it. I've always wanted to do it. And I posted my first video, and I was like, oh, this is so scary. What are people gonna think? And I think all of those emotions where you're oh, everybody's gonna sitting at home watching this thing, and what is she doing? It does hit, you do think those things, but then once you keep posting them, it almost sort of just fades into the background, and you just I just go now and pick up my phone without even really thinking about it, and just show what I'm doing, or just speak to the camera, or just do it now without really thinking. And the community and the people that I have found along the way has honestly given me such passion to keep working and keep fighting, because there's so many creatives online too that are almost scared to speak on camera, because a lot of people would message me and be like, so I'd love to start talking on stories, how are you doing this, what do you do? And honestly, just do it. I know that you're going to be sitting at home thinking, oh my days, what are people thinking of me? But the reality is nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
And it's just a bit of fun, and it really will make the world a difference.
So while you've said that your Instagram, is such a massive support and there's such a huge community in there, have you found any struggles with it? Because I know that there's a lot of, mental health issues that people would have whenever they're going onto social media, whereas whenever you're using it as a business, do you think that still applies? Do you think that it's affected you in any way, having to kind of manage that while also going through a degree?
Definitely, it's definitely hard. Obviously social media, there's pros and cons to it. Like everything, there's pros and cons to it. And definitely limiting yourself. Like I've had to turn my Instagram notifications off because it was really, really affecting me. Like I would just be glued to my phone all the time. And that is so, it's like when your time is so valuable when you're making, so you have to be really strict. And I just was getting messages through constant, and I never like to leave anybody waiting or make anyone feel disappointed or feel like I'm ignoring them, because I genuinely am not. Like it's just really, really hard when you are making and this is your business and you're ours. Like you have to, like I have to take this seriously now. Like I'm out of university, like I need just the time. And like whenever I turn them off, like I notice such a difference because I don't go on as much. Like I go on now with the intent to check and reply to messages when I need to, whereas whenever it's constantly popping up on your phone, like it can be really, really distracting and like really kind of destructive. So I definitely had to take a step back there, because like whenever there is so many people like watching what you're doing and responding, it's so great, but it can also be like really overwhelming. One of the things that I would probably say, like whenever I go on now to do, like I do little like flash sales, so I put like so much up because I have a wee tiny kiln at the minute and there's only so much I can get through. So I put up so much, and then when it's gone, like I genuinely like I get like flooded with comments. And at the start, like it really did hit me. I was like, oh my days, like I really hate like, even anybody feeling disappointed or like, but I was just so stretched. And like there comes a point where you have to say to yourself like Zara, like come on now, like you have to like put yourself first. Like you can't be working 24/7. As much as I think I can work 24/7, I cannot work 24/7. And so I had to have a serious talk to myself and be like, look, just, like you can only do what you can. Like you can only do your best. And like I've always gone through life with that sort of mentality, like you can only do your best. And as long as I know that I've like thrown everything at it and I've done my best, like there's nothing else. But definitely turning the notifications off, that really, really helped when it comes to like mental health and all that. Like you do need your time to just switch off from it, because when you're running a business and when it's a business that you're doing on your own and your studio's in your garage in your house and you're in lockdown and you can't leave, like you need to find a way to switch off. And it can be really, really difficult, but you have to do it or you just drive yourself insane.
Just get that burnout, because I think with social media as well, it's really changed the focus away from the making sometimes. You know, a lot of people wouldn't have been able to really promote necessarily themselves as a maker, and now there is that huge focus on, you know, people are buying a brand. They're not necessarily just buying a product anymore. They're buying into you and they're buying a piece of you.
I agree with that.
But yeah, so that I'm sure that's going to be really stressful. But you don't really need that stress. Yeah, as you're a student as well. But you've coped with it quite marvelously.
I know. You know what though? Like even when I did, like there was weeks in uni where I would have really serious like burnout. Like at the time, like I would be working on things and I would go in every day. Like I would be the person who gets up at 8 o'clock every morning, go in and just like crack on. But when you do hit burnout, like doesn't matter what you're doing, things just go wrong. And like there was one week in particular when I was at university where things just like went wrong the full week, and I was like, what am I doing? Like why is nothing working? And I went home that weekend and I switched off, like I unplugged. I was like, I am not touching play. Like I said, like I usually would have made mugs or something. I didn't go into the studio. I didn't like turn on my phone. I was like, I just need time to walk away. And I went away from it for the weekend. And when I came back on Monday morning, everything was fine. The molds worked, the molds fit together. But like, I promise you, I was standing on the fry, like trying to work out why these four sides wouldn't go together. And I just kept looking at it. And all it took was just taking a step back, unplugging, walking away, and then just come back with like a fresh mindset. And it's crazy what that can do, because you get so like bogged down into like what you're doing that you forget sometimes to like just take a step back. But no, I agree, you do need to like unplug.
Yeah, oh absolutely.
And digital, like social media and recording your stuff digitally, as well as having digital processes within your making, seems to be something that you're quite either you've worked really hard at, which I'm sure you have, but also you've taken to just so easily. Could you talk a bit about the 3D printing that you were discussing earlier?
So I don't know, like I'm not like a I don't know an awful lot about 3D printing. I know the basics. And so whenever I was doing my 3D printing, I worked really close with a technician. It's something that I really want to like develop in more in the future, but it's something that I was just sort of playing about with, but definitely I want to work on expanding.
Brilliant. So could you maybe talk a bit about your actual degree show work and exhibition work, and maybe things that you'd made beforehand for exhibition, because they're so beautiful. And I know you said that you're relatively new to 3D printing, and I'm obviously a jeweler and not a ceramicist, but it looks like it's all just fitted together so well and so beautifully. So could you talk a wee bit about that?
So whenever I went in to do my final project, I was like wondering what I was going to do. I knew I wanted to look again at 3D printing because I had done it for my Kiln project where I had 3D printed the houses, but I wanted to sort of come at it at a different angle. And it was a really strange time because we had just moved out of our family home. So I was sort of like thinking about, well, how can I document a time in my life? Like, because I've always been inspired by data. I've always made things that to represent something visually, which comes from like numbers or like words, or like just trying to create something from nothing has always been my goal. And so whenever we had moved out of the house, I was like trying to think of a way of like creating something which I could use to like hold on to as a memory of home. So I would like get my phone and I started recording sounds and then using the sound waves as data to produce these 3D prints. But like I explored like working on the lathe before I even sort of took to the 3D printing. So I would record the sounds and then chop them up and draw like the scaled drawings. And then the scaled drawings went onto the lathe, and then I was playing with them on the lathe, and then I was like, you know what, like I really want to make these like twist and bend and warp, because it was all about, because I had been doing all my research into memory and like what is a memory and like why do we like to hold on to things. And I found out like, you know, like a lot of what we do remember isn't always accurate because our memories are constantly warping and shifting over time. So I was like, how can I create something to hold on to as a memory of the past, but also something that looks like it's constantly evolving and moving. So I wanted to like bend the form, and obviously couldn't do that on the lathe. So I gravitated back again then to the 3D printer. And then when I was on 3D printer, I was like running around because I would have been all over the place at Belfast School of Art. Like I went to the photography department, I was over in animation a while, I was up in sculpture, like I just was everywhere. And so whenever I was doing my 3D printing, I was like, I'd love to be able to put some sort of like texture or like surface pattern on the surface. So I went to animation, and the animation technician helped me take photos, and then we scanned them in, and then I created texture from that. So I took things like the wallpaper from my house, and what else? Like we took pictures of like frosted glass, and then created like a surface from that. And then also like when I was in recording the sounds, I would take pictures of what was happening during that time. So like my granny was making the dinner, and I had been taking photos of all the pots and pans, and then taking them onto Photoshop, manipulating the images, and then sending them to the animation technician, and he was able to create me like a skin to like wrap around the form. So like everything sort of like interlinked in different ways, and it all came back to like trying to like hold on to something which was just constantly evolving.
That's incredible. And that's an incredible amount of processes, you know, across digital, but then also like kind of traditional skills as well, you know, on the lathe. And then, you know, you're doing slip casting as well, which I know some people would definitely consider that to be a kind of new technique, but it's definitely not, and it's very labor intensive as well.
Yes, slip casting is definitely a lot trickier than it looks. Like I would spend probably about a week once I got the 3D. So once I had designed the drawing, I then got it 3D printed, which would have took a couple of days. And then I got the 3D print and I would have made the mold, and the mold would have probably took me a week. And then the mold had to dry out, and then we started slip casting. And I like wanted to create these things, but they didn't want to be made. Is what I tell myself. So I would like cast them and like put them in plastic tubs and then be building them. Like one of my pieces, which is all like curved and like twisted, it was actually built in the kiln. So I had like saved up all my casts, and then I would be like standing in the kiln room, like slipping and sticking things together like that, like just in the kiln, like building this piece with loads and loads and loads of props. So no, it was definitely challenging, but I'm so gutted that we didn't get to continue making them, because I was in the thick of it whenever lockdown hit. And I was making all these things, and I remember being up in the sculpture department talking to my technician, being like, right, I need to do this, this, and this. We're going to do this week. I need to get these things cut and printed and whatever. And then on the background on his like computer was like the news, and it was like saying like, oh, schools are being shut, everything's closing. I was like, oh no, like what am I going to do? So it got to the point where I was like, right, I'm going to have to pack everything up here and go home for a couple of weeks. Now, I'm very lucky that I have like a garage conversion, like little studio space. So I was like, it'll be fine. I've got 2 weeks. I'm going to cast everything in my plastic tubs that I was doing. And then I'll just bring all my plastic tubs up to Belfast and I'll build everything in the kiln. Everything will be fine. Like I'm always very like stick to target. Like I've always been like very scheduled person. So when I was looking at it, I was like, this is a definite hurdle in my path, but like we can do this. So like I was sitting at home like casting everything and storing in tubs, and then just over time like the reality sort of kicked in, like I'm not going back to Belfast. So that was definitely a really strange thing to have to overcome as well. I was like, what am I going to do now? So I still made the pieces and then I would be building them, but I didn't have the kiln access to finish them. So they sort of like are now sitting on the shelf waiting until I can get them fired, hopefully soon, all being well. And thankfully our degree show now has been postponed to the following year, so we will get a degree show and we will get to exhibit the work. But there's so much like I was still planning to do. Like I was also planning to go and do some glass work as well, to have like glass elements in with the forms as well, which I am still going to go and do. It's just, you know, delayed at the minute.
Yeah, everything is kind of on hold, isn't it? And that's the most frustrating part of it. But so talk us through about exactly what you had planned for the visual aspect of your degree show, but then how that is now going to be a reality for next year.
So I had plans to do 22 pieces. Now they were going to be like up to 6 foot tall. And they were going to be cast and then joined, and then probably some sort of internal support system to hold them up. And I was going to have a bit of a mixture between like the curved ones and straight ones, and it was going to be like this massive installation. So I have a lot of the stuff is still in uni, and I feel like when I go back it'll be kind of like post-apocalyptic, because everybody just dropped everything and like left, and I kind of can't imagine going back to pick up everything that is just sitting there. But no, everything, like it will eventually be this huge installation, and I still have the molds and I still have the 3D prints, and so eventually we will get to exhibit next year, and I'm really looking forward to it, because I feel like it's going to give me like, there's always like a silver lining in everything, and I feel like there has been a lot of good that came out of it, because now I do have more time to sort of think about different things that I hadn't thought about, like like, do I want to have them all straight? Like, am I gonna include some more of my twisted ones, which I was really like kind of like putting off, but now I look at them and had more time to reflect, I'm like, you know, like I think they were more successful, just different things like that, which I feel like you were so rushed through because we were like running. It was like a race, like to get to the finish line. We only had a couple of weeks left, and I don't know, it's such a unique experience to just be like plopped out whenever you're in the middle of just go, to just be like, right, you've got till next year now. So no, I'm just really looking forward to getting the work done now, because I've had it visualized for so long that I just can't wait to see it all coming together.
Absolutely. And currently, your degree show would have actually been like, it probably would have finished this weekend, would it have
Yeah,
been originally?
yeah,
This is the 13th of June that we're recording this on. But there is actually a website where your degree show is taking place at the moment. It
yeah,
is bsoa2020.com,
yeah,
where you're having like a digital degree show essentially.
yeah.
Yeah, so how did that come about then? Was that just an idea of the departments to say that this needs to be an online?
So I genuinely don't think the decision to like not have a degree show was taken lightly, because we were in constant conversation with our lecturers and with the head of school to like think about like what are we going to do? Like, we're creative people, we need to figure out like a creative solution to this. Like, we can't just have nothing. We're gonna have to have, we're gonna, like, they really wanted to give us the best opportunity that they could. So the head of school put together this website, and everybody submitted like images of what they had been working on and what they had up to date. And it was all comprised onto this website, and it had like a really, really great response. And it's like it is making the best of the situation at the minute, and I think everyone was really grateful to have that platform and have a way of like celebrating the work that we did make. But no, it was really, really great to have that to work towards.
Do you mind if I ask about, obviously, you've graduated, or have you graduated? And we know you got a first class honour, so huge congratulations for that.
Thank you.
But what does graduation look like? Like, it must feel so strange to have worked so hard for so long and then
Yeah,
not have
it was
graduation.
really, really hard to accept the fact that I wasn't going to have a degree show this year. Like, that
Mm.
was one thing that whenever I started university, I always went to the degree shows. I always looked at them and thought, wow, like one day, like I'll be able to stand beside my work. I'll be able to get dressed up, and people will be coming around to look at what I've made. Like, that just seems so crazy and exciting, and something which I had always in the back of my mind, like envisioned what that would have looked like. And then, so to be told like you're not having it this year was kind of like, oh, like, okay, like what now? Like, do you know what I mean? And so then also once I got over that, I was like, oh, graduation, like what is that gonna look like? Like, surely, like, we can't walk across the stage and shake hands. We can't be
Yeah.
like sitting like 2 meters apart from everyone. Like, what kind of venue is gonna hold everybody? Like, I just don't know. I don't see it being, well, we don't know what's around the corner, but I just don't see it happening this winter either. Like, I don't understand how we could possibly be okay to do it in the winter. I don't know. Like, everything just seems to like fly at you just unexpectedly. So who knows what will happen in a couple of months. But at the minute, there's no sign of a proper graduation. I threw like a little like mini graduation in my front room whenever I got my results.
Yeah.
So like I went onto Amazon, and this is so sad, and like ordered a cap and gown, and so me and mom and dad, like, we were just like had like a little mini celebration in the house, which was good fun, and it was a bit of a laugh when I got my photos. So I mean, making the best of every situation, but
Yeah.
hopefully down the line eventually we'll be able to have a big celebration. But like, I lived with two girls who were textile students, and they also find it really, really difficult to sort of come to terms with the fact that like there's no degree show and there's no graduation, because we had been working, like, I'd lived with them for 3 years, so we would literally have been flat out at the kitchen table like all year, like making bits and pieces. So to have seen behind the scenes and seen how hard they worked, um it was lovely to see them succeed as well. But at the same time, you're like, I wish like I could have been there and we could have all like celebrated together, and we could have gone out and had drinks, or like went for dinner, or like really had that proper celebration experience. Or like, I don't know, it's just so crazy the time that we're in.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll all
I-
work out and we'll get some sort of proper celebration eventually. Just have to hang in there.
Definitely. And so, how do you feel? Like, obviously, COVID has been a huge issue for what, was meant to be happening for 2020 for you. Has there been anything that's really surprised you as a result of the surprising events that have kind of unfolded? Like, Obviously, you haven't been able to do your degree show as normal, but your business seems to be doing really well. Do you think you've seen a surge in that because people are maybe more at home, or is that pretty consistent for you? Or just tell us a bit about that?
So whenever I came home from university, and this was like a couple of weeks after I had decided, right, the molds need to just be put aside for the time being because I can't get anything fired. I was like, now is the time to focus on saving for that bigger kiln. Like that's what I needed to progress. So I was like, right, I'm gonna go all guns blazing into this business side of things. And so when I came home, I noticed like so many more people are shopping online, so many more people are buying for friends online, and there was just like this crazy surge of like e-commerce because obviously people couldn't get to the shops, so they were looking for alternatives. And at this time during lockdown, I fell in with a lot of my, like, I'm from Ballymoney, so I found all of the small business people in Ballymoney, so all the small business, like all the small people who had shops in the town were marketing and selling through Instagram, and their stuff was just blowing up, and it was just going crazy. And so like I had reached out to them and had started having conversations with them about how lockdown has affected them and how they've had like the drive to keep going. And they're like, Zara, like now is the time, like everybody is shopping online, and like everybody has just, it's so lovely to see the small business people thrive in the middle of a pandemic, because you would think that these are going to be the people who are suffering the most. And yes, I'm sure there was like quite a few people who have suffered, but the community and just like everything is just thriving in the midst of everything that's going on, just to see like the community and everything thriving. So I was like, right, I'm going to go back on the wheel. I'm going to use what I have at home to try and push myself to get ahead, to try and like just keep going. And obviously, like being locked down, there was only so many like banana breads that I could bake before I was like, right, now I need to do something else. So I started throwing these wee mugs. And I started like, I made like these stay home mugs as like little momentums for people to like have as like a memory of the time that we're in. And then I started doing more like personalized options. So I started doing that, and people were stamping like little messages that they wanted to send to people that we were missing, because obviously everybody was drinking a serious amount of tea because so yeah, that was my little lockdown project. I had just started making these mugs, and honestly I've just been overwhelmed with the amount of support from my Instagram community, from the small businesses around me, from the lectures. Everything has just been insane. So even though we were in such like a strange time and my degree show was just like swiped from under my feet, a lot of good did come from being locked down, because now I have saved and have purchased my next kiln, which is crazy. Like I just didn't think that would happen. Like I didn't think that whenever I left uni I would be able to buy that straight away, because it is like a big investment. So to have graduated and now purchase my big kiln and now have like my studio set up, it's been a huge weight off my shoulders, because I think that is a worry for a lot of graduates, that when you leave, like what's next, or like what are you going to do after. But it all works out, and at the minute, like I'm still terrified, I'm not gonna lie, like I'm still really scared. But
completely understandable.
It is nice to have like the community of like the makers, and then also like the small businesses, and I just feel like there is just a huge like push to like keep going. Like there's nothing else for it, like you just have to keep going.
So if anybody that's familiar with your Instagram will have seen little studio shots that you've put up, you know, in the background or whatever, or any videos that you're doing. But could you maybe talk a little bit about your studio and how you set that up, and what equipment you have, and maybe what equipment that you're going to get in the future, like this lovely new big kiln?
So it's basically a garage which we cut in half. So I put up wooden boards in the middle because I couldn't have the full garage. So we just had half. So we put up walls and sectioned it off into this small space. And at the start, I just had benches. And I was like, this is great, benches and shelves. That's all I need to get going. This gives me enough room to make. And then eventually I was like, right, I'm going to paint the walls. So paint the walls white, put up some good lighting. The place was great. And then we eventually saved a little bit more. We had the money for tiles, put the tiles down. And then I was like, right, this was coming up to Christmas, so I had saved and like made all my stuff for the craft fair. So I'd be making all my hand built stuff, taking it back to the kilns. So then at Christmas I bought my first wheel, and then the wheel was like really like the first point where it was like game changing, because I was like, right, now I can throw at home. Like I don't have to just sit in uni all night long. So I can sit in my garage all night long. No, I'm joking. But we just like I just started like keep going and just keep like I think everyone, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I sort of have this mindset that things like I did, but things just sort of appeared overnight. Like I thought that I could just like get up and just do it, and it's been like a really hard pill to swallow. Like no, like things take time. Like you just have to give everything time and just keep working, and eventually like these things, like I've gathered up so many tools in the past 3 years. Like I don't know about you, but like my shelves are overflowing now. And like first year Zara, whenever I went in with my wee tiny toolbox, like I didn't think I would ever have that kind of collection of stuff, but the amount of stuff that I've gathered up over the past 3 years is insane. But no, now I've got a wee miniature kiln as well. It's a wee hobby kiln. I have to fire it manually because it was an old sitter. But you know what? It's getting me from A to B, and I found it on Facebook Marketplace, and it's allowed me now to make and sell and get work fired and get stuff through and make a bit of an income to get me to the next stage. So I have now purchased an even bigger kiln, which I'm so excited about, because now I can do more of my sculptural things and really like where my heart is, and really do all this arty stuff. Maybe even run workshops or classes, or it really just gives me a little bit more freedom of what I will be able to do down the line. So yeah, it's just the garage, but I've made the most of the garage.
Yeah. Oh, don't knock a garage. My goodness. No, some of the best work comes out of a garage. I have a garage. I'm not saying that my work's any good, but garages are perfect. Yeah. Oh, they're really good. But yeah, so the hobby kiln that you have and the one that you've got, is that a single phase kiln then, or do you have 3 phase available?
No, it's a single phase, and just plug it into the wall and away you go.
Brilliant. Plug and play.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. It's tiny, but you know what? It's doing the job, and it's getting me to where I need to go next. And I think that's the main thing. Like, obviously, like you just need to just keep chipping away. If I could give one piece of advice, it's literally just keep going and just chipping away. And if you get up and do 2 hours of work a day, like you're honestly like you're doing so much more than you think.
Yeah. And so were you using electric kilns in uni, or were you using gas, or?
Mainly electric. Now I've played about with the gas kilns a couple of times, but no, I've always gravitated towards electric. And it's only been in the past couple of years, like learning how to like program everything and get everything running. But it's definitely something I want to like look into more and like play with more glazes. Like there's so much to do.
Yeah, I don't think anybody will ever master it, isn't it? It's almost like a separate degree in itself, just the technical aspect, you know.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, so what clays were you using in uni? Are you going, I know you've been using Parian porcelain. Are you taking that right up to temperature then, or?
So for the houses, for one of my projects, I made these little slip glass houses in Parian porcelain. And I love porcelain. I love the quality and I love the color. I don't love the shrinkage. The shrinkage is heartbreaking. It's porcelain and Parian porcelain shrinks like 20%. 25 maybe. Like it shrinks an insane amount. So like you're making these big things, you put them in the kiln, you open the door and it's tiny, and you're thinking to yourself, what? Like where did this all go? But no, I love porcelain, and I like really want to make more things in porcelain. I was slip casting in porcelain for my degree show. So like all of my, not Parian. Now Parian was a bit of a nightmare because Parian likes to warp a lot and is really, really hard to work with. So I switched just to the porcelain instead, and like it's been great for joining and all that. No, I love porcelain. When I throw with stoneware, but porcelain is something like I'd love to learn to throw, but porcelain is a nightmare. Like it's hard, and I think that's why I love it, just because I am so stubborn and I'm like, no, like I need to crack the code of porcelain.
I kind of say that sometimes it's like working with chewing gum. Like it's like a weird.
It's sticky.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And it doesn't like water, but then,
Hmm.
oh gosh, it's just really annoying. But yeah, so is that grog then, or can you get even grog slip whenever you're slip casting, or is it just for throwing really?
You can, I think you can put grog in slip. I've been playing with making my own grog, so like I would be like staining the porcelain and then firing it and then smashing it up and adding in my own grog to test, like trying to get them to stand upright more and trying to stop the warp rage to see like ceramics is all about, it's just all about like experimenting really, isn't it, and just seeing what will happen.
Mhm.
So like I just like whenever I was making my forms in the beginning, I had a real nightmare to get them to not warp. The straight up ones, just because of the height of them, they just like to like lean over in the kiln, and so it took a lot to work out how to get them to stop to stop leaning over. There was a couple of times when I opened the kiln door and things would just be like lying on top of each other, and you're just thinking, why, why me? You lift it out, bring it out into the middle of the hall, set it down on the table. Everybody's like looking like like don't know whether to speak to Zara right now or not, because it was so heartbreaking when things like just stick together. But I think that's just part and parcel, isn't it? Really, like things don't always just come out the way that you think they're going to. That you think, oh yeah, everybody thinks like ceramics, you just put it in, close the door, open it up in a couple hours, fine. No, like the amount of times things go wrong is so heartbreaking. But
Yeah.
it's always makes it 10 times more worth it when things do come out great. It's like little treasures coming out of the
Yeah.
kiln.
And it certainly makes you more resilient as well. I think
Oh,
that it
definitely.
really, I think ceramicists can sometimes have the best kind of, mental state because they're like, oh, well, I've made 10 more in case that one, messes up. So
Literally.
you won't put any kind of love into that one individual piece because you know that that could be
Yeah,
gone in, moments. But
absolutely
yeah,
heartbreaking.
so you said earlier that whenever you were even choosing your course that you were sitting there with your dad.
Hmm.
How have your parents, reacted to you choosing like a degree in art and then continuing on to be a business in this? It isn't necessarily a very common career path for many people, but would you say that they've been, supportive in your decisions?
So, like, whenever I was at school, like, taking it way back to when I was at school, like, I always just loved art. Like, I did nothing else but art in my free time. Like, in the free periods, I'd sit and do art. Like, they always knew that that was going to be what I was going to do. And, like, they sort of they never discouraged me from doing it, like ever. Like I was never told like no you can't do it, but I was told like it's going to be hard, and if you want to do it you're going to have to work 10 times harder, because this is not something that you're just going to graduate from and walk into a job. Like you're going to have to carve like your own path, and you're going to have to do like you're going to have to work 10 times harder. Everyone thinks that whenever you go in to do an art degree, like there's like these two sides. Like somebody's like some people are like, oh, you're never going to get a job, and some people think like, oh, it's great, like you can do whatever you want. And if I was ever given someone advice who wanted to do art, I would say go for it, do it, but just know it's going to completely consume you altogether. And if you want to make it work, you're going to have to work 10 times harder than the people who are going to uni once a week. Like this is a that you're going to go to uni every single day. When you come home from uni, you're still going to be thinking about it. If you want to do a business, you're going to be thinking about it even more. Like from the moment you open your eyes to the moment you go to bed at night, like this is going to be your life. And when you love art and you love what you're doing, it's not a job, so it's not hard. Like it's hard, but it's like it doesn't look like hard work.
Mhm.
But no, they've always been really supportive and always just like pushed me to just do what I want. And like they have like seen like the business at the start. They were kind of like my mom and dad didn't really get it. Like they're not really arty themselves. So whenever I was like, right, I'm gonna do this business, I don't think they thought it would turn into what it is. Like I'm only a couple of years in, but I don't think they thought it would turn into what it is now. Obviously, they've always been like really supportive, but I just don't think they expected it to be what it is.
Do you think that your parents then understand what you do? Because I know some people kind of have that. Like I certainly know that my parents they completely did not understand, what my degree was about or what my artwork was about. Now that I'm making kind of more functional work, they obviously get it, but they kind of thought, oh, were you not like making plates and cups the whole time? Whenever I said ceramics, they were like,
Yeah,
oh yes, you're making delf, you're making
yeah.
balig, or and it's
Mhm.
like No.
Yeah.
But yeah, so do you think that they have that understanding of like what if they were talking to their friends, they're like, oh, Zara, yeah, she does ceramics, that's such a
Yeah.
unique thing.
I don't know. Like, I think that's a hard question. Like, I don't think they really know. Like, when it comes to the art and when it comes to like the sculptural stuff, that's just me and my little arty world and like just making fun things. Like, of course, they're like, whenever I came back from collect and I was like telling them and like showing them all these people and like being like, look at like this person, what they're doing. Like, I'd love to be and here in 10 years' time. They were definitely like, well, go for it. Like, just do what you can do and just see what happens. Like, you might as well just try your best and see what happens. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But like, I've always just had to like just keep pushing. Like, before I like did my business, before I was able to really like do my business like full time, I worked in Bob and Bert's in Ballymoney for 3 years. And so like when I was in there, like it really taught me to work too, because it really gave me that drive, because I was like, right, I need to do this, I need to get through it. But it also gave me the drive to be like, well, like this is not what I'm going to do forever. Like, I want to do my ceramics and I want to do something creative. But I loved like the aspect that this was somebody's business and like they were running it, and I was like, how can I like have a little piece of that, like something that's my own, and like have nobody to tell me what to do. Like, I just wanted to be my own boss and get up in the morning and wanted to like go to work because I wanted to go to work, and like not have somebody be like, right, sorry, you have to be in here doing this at this time and all that. So yeah, it's definitely, I don't know.
I think that's a goal for everybody, isn't it? Whenever, especially if they're
Yeah.
going to be self-employed or if they're going to be starting a business, it's that aspect that you're the one in control. You're the one, setting all the rules and things. But in terms of the future then for your practice and even your artwork, developing that as well, how do you see that changing? I mean, obviously we're still, on tenterhooks for your degree show, which is next
Mm-hmm.
year. So planning
Mm-hmm.
that done and dusted, but it's still on a roll. But what would have been your plans then after graduation, had it have actually happened, the way it was to be planned?
It's definitely a hard one, because I feel like I just keep going and pushing through, and I know that the business side of things was always something that I wanted to do, but also in the back of my head, like, I know I want to create sculptural work. So I don't know exactly, like, it's such a hard question, isn't it, like whenever you're
Mm.
just when you're just finishing. But no, I want to create work to enter into competitions and do more galleries and do more exhibitions, um and really push myself down that path a bit more, but also like work on commercial things as well and try and juggle both. Like, I don't know eventually down the line whether I will be doing both, but at the minute that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to I've applied to do the artist in residence next year to give me another year at like trying to like maybe even develop into teaching, because I've never even thought of like teaching might be something that I would be interested in. But so I'm hoping that that'll maybe give me a little bit more of an insight into whether that might be something for me. I don't know. It's
Mhm.
still so like early days, and
Yeah.
this is so, I don't know what I'm doing. I just like keep pushing forward.
Yeah, just one day at a time, isn't it? I think that's
Yeah.
the kind of mindset of, especially over COVID as well. It's just keeping
Yeah.
it one day at a time. But even, I mean, even speaking to you now about all the processes that you've done and the development of your work for your degree, I kind of feel like, oh my gosh, you've definitely gained enough even just for a master's right now, because people wouldn't even push themselves as hard as you have in your degree. That people sometimes would even save that for a master's. So, but is that something that you would have even thought about or even developed or continued on for
No,
a
like I
master's?
would love to do my master's. Just at the minute it's so expensive, and I
Mhm.
don't like, I feel like I've always like all I've known my whole life is education. Like, I've always been in an education, and I think now is a really great time, like especially with COVID. Like, I can't imagine going in and starting a master's like in the middle of this whole pandemic. Like, would I even have been able to like go into the university? Like, how would that have affected things? So like, I've always said to myself, like, once I get this degree, like, I'm taking myself out of education for a couple of years and really just running with it and seeing where I can go and like how far I can get. And I've not ruled out the possibility of doing a master's. Like, I'd love to do one, but I just don't feel like it's the right thing to do right now. I just feel like I need to get out and just do just like try and push my business more and try and make the sculptural work. Now that I've got this kiln coming, I'll have the space, and try teaching and just try everything before I sort of like narrow myself down.
Brilliant. I mean, that sounds so exciting, and I think that's a really good approach as well. I think a lot of people just try and push on from their degree onto their masters, and not that there's any problem with that, but I know for myself, I felt like I needed to take space, and now that I have taken space, I don't actually know if I could go back into education, because just the way
Did you not feel like it was like a bubble when you were there too? Like you're sort of in this sort of university bubble where, and I feel like I needed that sort of, I feel like I need that push now to just be like dropped into the world of craft and just be like, right, sink or swim, go, see what you can do. And if I sink, then I might be like, right, I need to like retrace and like regroup and think about what I'm doing. But at the minute and like where I'm at, I just feel like I just need to go for it and just see how far I can go.
I mean, are there other makers around you? Like, I think that's something that I personally miss is while I'm very much involved in the craft community in Northern Ireland, there's nothing quite like your uni experience of having about 15, 20 people working right next to you. And obviously COVID and all that, it's probably not going to be the same in the future. Hopefully it will. But I mean, are there other makers you can kind of tap in with? I know you had an issue with one of your wheels and you had to switch it out and things like that. Like, do you have a good makers community where you're based?
So whenever I was at uni, like I fell in with this girl Claire who I met on the course. Now Claire's from Kiln, so like we were inseparable in uni. Like we were just been like two, like we just had our head down, work all the time. And so I really do miss that sort of companionship, like, and having somebody to be like, right, let's just go for lunch. I've just spilt 10 gallons of plaster. It's time to call it a day. Let's go. But I definitely still do have like such a great community at home as well, because there's McCall, who is in Castle Rock, who does, like, I went to work out with her for last summer, and we made bits to sell and like helped her with her parties, and that sort of gave me a little bit of an insight into like that world as well of like teaching. But also then just around the corner is Flowerfield, and Fiona and Jack McGonigal are down there, and they helped me out a lot whenever I was at uni and I was struggling to get kilns. Like they were honestly they were lifesavers at the time, because they helped me get work fired and really pushed me forward as well. And like I know I can always go to them if I'm really like, oh, I don't know, like what am I doing, like, because it is scary. Like this is such like it's such a strange job to be going into, like being self-employed, and like there's no, like, everything falls on your shoulders. So it's like it's nice to know there's other people trying to do the same thing as you, and like it's nice to know that there's people there you can talk to and who are struggling maybe with the same things, or can feel your pain or feel your fear whenever you're just starting. It's nice to know that you're not on your own. So yeah, there is quite a few. And then Adam Frew is just around the corner as well. He would be quite close to me, not far from where I'm at as well. So no, there's such a strong like craft community for where I'm at as well. So it has been nice to have people to sort of rally me forward and be like, like, you can do it, just keep going. It's not that scary, like you'll get through it. Like just keep your head down and keep going.
Oh, definitely. Another thing as well is that you were selected to do the Aib Graduate Awards in winter. How did that come about, and what are your plans for that?
So I don't know an awful lot. I haven't got any of the details yet. Last week I got an email through to say that my work was selected. Like they had selected my work to create a trophy for the Distinguished Graduate Award, which will be presented to the winner at the winter graduation, which is so exciting. I've never made a trophy before. I am really excited to start a new project, because I feel like this is giving me something to really like run towards next. So I'm excited to get drawing and sketching and doing that whole like hitting the ground running experience again. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know exactly what I'm going to make yet. I have a couple of ideas on maybe doing something maybe wall mounted, or does it have to be like, I don't know any of the technical like what has the sizes or anything yet, so I'm not sure, but it's nice to have something to look forward to as well.
Really exciting. It's always nice to kind of have that just lined up anyway as well.
Yeah.
So kind of thinking along those lines, is there anyone that you would maybe like as a dream team really love to kind of collaborate with, or is there any maker that you've kind of seen as though like, wow, they are really just knocking it out of the park, it would be wonderful to kind of work with them, or even in terms of an apprenticeship? We know that you've worked with Ed Bentley before. Yeah, is there anybody else that you just kind of feel like, oh my gosh, that is a dream team kind of situation?
That's a good one. There's Sue from the Throwdown, one of the judges on the Throwdown. She's like a
Oh
flip
yeah.
cast artist, and she has got her own business, and she is absolutely smashing it at the minute, like making all the mugs. And like I watch her a lot on Instagram stories, and I would just love to go over and work with her Friday. I think that would be so exciting and just something a little bit different. And like I love speaking to business people, and especially businesswomen who just really got it together and like know what they're doing. And like I feel like there's like something really exciting like comes to life when people talk about what they love to do. So honestly, anyone I've ever spoke to that's like makers, like even McCall, when I went down to spend the summer with her last year, like she just gave me such like an encouragement. Like I just left every day thinking, gosh, I just want to get back to the wheel and start making again. I just love speaking to craft people in general, because I just feel like everybody's so passionate about what they're doing and like what they're making, and everybody just has like different stories to tell. But gosh, that's such a good one. There's so many like fantastic makers, especially in Northern Ireland. So
yeah, very inspiring to kind of see this community as well and how they're coping through all of this, kind of unknownness as well. People are being very creative and people are being very supportive too. But it's great to see that you've been really resilient in your business and in your artwork as well. It's so encouraging, and you've really got your head screwed on. I feel so inspired. I feel really hyped up and pumped now after this conversation. It's like the rest, I think we've got another recording to do later, but I'm like, no, I'm going into the studio.
yes.
This is it. Yeah.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
What is you've obviously said you're waiting on your very exciting new kiln. What would be your next big purchase, do you think, or what are you kind of working towards?
There's so many things that I just love to buy for the studio. My next big purchase, there's too many. I would love a lathe. I'd love a lathe, and then I'd also love a 3D printer. What else? There's so many. There's just so much that I just love. Like there's just so many things that I have to save for now. But I think maybe it's going to be a mix. It's either going to be a lathe or a 3D printer. Not sure yet, but I'm just so excited. There's so much to look forward to, really.
So what we like to do towards the end is ask a few kind of random questions. So we would like to know if there's any podcasts that you like to listen to, or anyone that you'd like to recommend, or what's your routine in the studio in terms of listening, or yeah.
Okay, so these are two podcasts that I put on. Now, whenever I don't really listen at the minute, I haven't really been listening to like specifically craft podcasts. I really enjoy like something a bit funny and a bit lighthearted, especially when I'm making, just to sort of like escape into. And when you're making, like it's hard to like watch and make at the same time, so podcasts are great for that. But one that I've been like really loving at the minute is A Girl and Her Mother-in-Law, which is just like about a girl and her mother-in-law, and they just talk about things that you wouldn't expect a girl and her mother-in-law to talk about. It's just really, really funny. And then the other one is Beach Too Sandy, Water Too Wet, which is a podcast where they like read like 1-star reviews from like all over and just read the most ridiculous 1-star reviews. So like those are the two that I gravitate towards the most. It's just something for a bit of a laugh, really. So you'll have to give them a listen and see what you think. But I think they're so funny.
What are their names again? Sorry. What?
A Girl and Her Mother-in-Law.
Okay, A Girl and Her Mother-in-Law.
And the other one is Beach Too Sandy, Water Too Wet. And they're just funny. Like they're just like, it's just a bit of a laugh.
Yeah, just something a bit kind of lighthearted you can kind of switch off to, and
to give you a bit of a chuckle whenever you're constantly throwing or I don't know,
Yeah.
glazing.
Oh
It's
gosh.
so like hypnotic, isn't it? Whenever you get into making, that you sort of lose what your train of thought. So it's nice to have something on the background to focus on as well.
Yeah, oh, definitely, because it could be really monotonous, can't it? Like, you know, you're
Oh,
kind of doing
100%.
sometimes the same thing, the same process. Although maybe different things each day, but sometimes those things can just be the same thing, same
Yeah.
process.
But
So,
it's all good fun.
yeah, but I'm going to check those out. They sound brilliant.
Oh,
I'm
they're
always
so
looking,
funny.
yeah, for new podcasts to listen to. That would be great. And then we also like to ask, what is the last piece of craft that you've bought, or maker or retailer that you've supported, or is there anybody you just want to give a bit of a shout out to?
I support a lot of like small online businesses in general, just because I know how much it means whenever somebody buys something, like whenever you're like independent, it's just like it just means so much more. But at the minute, um, okay, I have two. One of them is food related, and it's Suzanne from Sweetness and Light Cakery on Instagram. She makes
Ooh.
the best brownies, and she posts them straight to your door, and makes really really great Biscoff Rocky Roads. I cannot get enough
Wow.
of her Biscoff Rocky Roads and s'mores brownies.
Oh
They're
my.
unreal.
Ooh.
Unreal. The last piece of craft I bought, I am a bit of a mug collector. So like I have a shelf in my room where I just have like a collection of handmade mugs because I'm a student and I just like love to like collect craft, but like I need to stay within my price point or I would go mad with this craft things.
Yeah, oh,
But my
definitely.
last mug was an Adam Frew mug. But I also have one from Jack McGonigal, one from Fiona Shannon, and I have quite a few. And then I also have one of Rebecca Kiln's little milk bottles.
Yeah, they're
So
great. Oh, local as well. You're fantastic.
yeah.
Really hitting it out of the park. You're brilliant. Well, like, you've been such a breath of fresh air. Your drive and
Thank
your
you.
motivation is so infectious. Really brilliant, honestly. And I love your honesty online as well. You know, you're not one of those that, you know, are constantly just showing all of your success and, you know, how brilliant you are, which you are. You're totally brilliant. And you could,
Thank you.
you know, you could just be showing all of the positives because you're so well-rounded. You're educating, you know, your followers as well, and then your followers and people about the craft sector too, which is really, really important, and it's fantastic. And we've had an amazing time just chatting to you
Thank
this
you.
morning. This has
Thank
been
you so much.
brilliant.
I've loved being on. This is a great escape.
Oh, good.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're really sorry that
Thank
we couldn't, you know, feed you and, yeah,
Oh
spoil you rotten
well,
in person, but
you'll have
probably
to come round
best.
to the studio at some point and see what I'm up to. Ah,
Yeah.
I'd
Start
love
Well,
the light
that.
into the garage.
yeah. Oh, that'd be great fun, actually. That'd be brilliant. So, just as a last thing, where can people find you online?
I'm Zara Ceramics on Instagram, on Facebook, and then my website is zaraceramics.com.
Brilliant. And your studio is private, so would that be
Yeah.
appointment only? Yeah,
Yeah, if you just drop me a message on Instagram, I'm more than happy for people to just pop round. But yeah,
brilliant.
just get in contact.
Amazing.
Well, thank you so much for
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
What a brilliant episode. Thank you so much, Sarah. That was really inspiring. Both Robin and I had a fantastic time speaking with you, and I'm sure we will see you at Collect someday. For our next episode, we are speaking with silversmith Stuart Kearns. It will be released on the 2nd of July. It's going to be a fantastic episode, so don't miss it.